So this takes us to the Tiny Toons of it all.
Doesn't everything.
We're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony. And in this cartoony, we're invading your TV.
I hope you guys like clips because they talked about the song a lot.
Boy.
And I find every time they talk about the Tiny Toons things to be very entertaining and interesting to show where their heads have been at with it being on Tiny Toons. So I guess let's just give a little history. On February 1st, 1991, Tiny Toons aired its 51st episode, which was called Tiny Toons Music Television. It was a parody of MTV Music Television.
You don't say.
Welcome to Tiny Toon Music Television. Ow, I'm Blockbuster Bunny. Ow! And I am Bubbling Labs Bunny. I'm Babs, yeah, I'm nationwide. No relation. First up on the show today is a music video from Madonna. I know, Sinead O'Connor. No. They Might Be Giants with Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Strangely, it featured two They Might Be Giants songs in a row, which is I think that's kind of what makes this like a kind of a bigger deal than it might have been.
Ah, that was so good. Let's hear another by They Might Be Giants called Particle Man. Who are these guys?
There's other songs. They have Respect by Aretha Franklin. I remember these very vividly, by the way. We have Montana Max singing Money, That's What I Want, and all that stuff.
How'd they think of that?
To start the episode with two They Might Be Giant songs.
And They Might Be Giants are not as well known as Aretha Franklin.
No, they were not well known.
Or that Money song.
I know that people who worked on this episode are Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, who did my beloved show, Batman Animated Series, and I'm obsessed with all their shows. They've done Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited. Don't get me started on those because I'm a big nerd for those shows. Bruce Timm actually did say in an interview he worked on the Particle Man segment, I think, like animating or whatever, or designing, which is crazy for me to connect all those dots in my life.
How did this happen, though?
I will tell you how this happened. Sherri Stoner wrote the They Might Be Giants segments, and she was a writer on Tiny Toons. An interesting fact about her.
Not a fan.
Ariel from The Little Mermaid is her. They used her as reference.
Physically? Or her voice?
Physically. So you could YouTube this right now.
That's crazy.
There's like behind the scenes on The Little Mermaid, and it's the animators like drawing her doing the poses and stuff.
So she looks like a mermaid.
She does.
Wow.
So she's
must be nice.
So she's the Tiny Toons writer.
So when I went to kindergarten, I remember my first report card. It said that having Sherri in kindergarten is like having a cartoon character in class. We're going to work this year on curbing her wonderful enthusiasm. So I remember this because it angered my mother so much that she went in there and read this teacher the riot act about curbing my enthusiasm. But I thought of that when I was writing for Babs Bunny, because to me, she was somebody whose enthusiasm would not be curbed.
Here, I'll show you this interview segment. Well, it's not an audio thing, unfortunately. Believe me, I tried. But she did say in an interview, I brought They Might Be Giants to the party. Really, the only video I'm responsible for is They Might Be Giants. At San Diego Comic-Con in 2008, there was a panel with the Tiny Toons people, and someone in the audience asked about They Might Be Giants being in the show. And she said she listened to them a lot and thought their style would fit right in with the cartoon. And she and Art Vitello, the director, thought it'd be fun to animate something to their music.
We were touring around the country, playing venues to, very small audiences. We were probably making just a couple $100 a night, but it was very much we were in clubland. It's a very modest thing. I remember we played at a club called the Mind Shaft, M-I-N-D Shaft. What kind of venue? It's called the Mind Shaft. So we were just playing these kind of flea-bitten nightclubs, but we were in a van and really barely making any money at all. And the phone call came in from Steven Spielberg's organization. That was the weirdest part about it, was that Steven Spielberg called our office, or his office called our office and said, we'd like to license these two songs, and we'd like to pay you, I'm not sure what the amount was. I think it might have been $8,000, something like that. It was not a house buying sum of money, but it seemed like an extraordinary amount of money at the time. And we just said, yeah, sure. We didn't really know what the pitch was, that they were going to be starting the Bugs Bunny cartoon series up again. And that seemed very exciting. We didn't really realize that it would be Tiny Toons, that it would be like these baby versions of the creatures. But many, many people have been exposed to They Might Be Giants music very early on in their lives through those shows.
This seems just as random to me as someone from People magazine picking up their demo tape.
Yeah.
The stars align for this band so much.
They've had a lot of good luck, and not to deny the skill that they have.
Oh,
but
for sure.
As
but
me and you know, skill is really not much of any, like getting these huge chances doesn't even have as much to do with your talent and skill as you would think. So Sherri Stoner is responsible, and in some ways, I think everyone should be thankful for her, because this massively upped their fan base to massive numbers.
I'm thankful,
including myself. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure I popped that flood cassette in because I was like, I remember these songs from Tiny Toons.
I mean, it's funny. It's because at the time it just seemed like this. Again, it was just like a sidebar. We were already doing this college thing. In fact, at that time, we had this, huge selling college radio record. So it seemed like doing a thing like Tiny Toons we weren't thinking in terms of like creating an audience for 10 years later that we could then harvest, I mean, it was just like a funny thing.
The downside is that it kind of does further the impression that they are a children's act, especially, and by the way, this is pre them doing children's songs. Maybe they wouldn't even mind it as much now, and maybe they've come to accept this now. But back in the 90s, their songwriting was as dark as ever, and Flood has a lot of dark material on it, and so does their other albums at the time. And they were working on Apollo 18, during all this happening. So linking They Might Be Giants so immediately with this Tiny Toons thing, I feel like it is a detriment in terms of your kind of overall, like how the world sees you.
Critics of They Might Be Giants sometimes say that you're in a perpetual state of prolonged adolescence. How do you deal with that? Do you think that?
How do we deal with which part of it? The critics or the adolescence part?
Well, both. Does it bother you?
I don't exactly feel that way. I think that there's something we do where we're trying to address what we think of as completely adult issues in our music. And if you read the lyric sheets, you see it's not really for kids. I think kids who like what we do, there's a lot of depth to it that they can grow into. But I think that in some ways anybody who does creative work has to reach into a kind of a certain kind of guileless part of themselves.
Well, you often sing songs that sound like they're meant to educate, like Particle Man or Why Does the Sun Shine, James K. Polk.
They're meant to, but they fail to. Particle Man has no educational content. It's just a complete. It's mostly nonsense, actually.
But I think the strange thing, it's strange to be in a rock band and have people go like, you guys are emotionally arrested, and it's like we dress like our parents. We're completely we answer questions directly, and it's a very Peter Pan existence to be in a rock band. I don't think like people in heavy metal bands or hip hop bands are exactly like pillars of maturity. And
your hair is a lot shorter than Bon Jovi's.
Absolutely. Well, we got to do those those ad industry gigs.
Oh, is that it?
No. I've always said we're the punk rock guys. We love the punk rock. We got the punk rock hairdos.
I mean, I think to be fair though, Tiny Toons had dark stuff too, and a lot of these cartoons have dark stuff.
Yeah,
I would argue that Looney Tunes is incredibly dark.
That's true.
So you might say it's a perfect match because it's a misunderstood.
Yeah, so here's the thing. They Might Be Giants...
trailing off.
They Might Be Giants seem to have their own impressions of Tiny Toons. I feel there is an aspect of Tiny Toons that is like kind of like, I guess like sarcastic, and there's a lot of jokes for adults in it or references.
Well, it has to. I mean, it's based on Looney Tunes. Who the fuck would be watching it? I sound like I'm a huge...
I know, you're like, really, no, it's fine. That's good.
It's just for argument's sake.
So as we can hear, John and John had issues with, they originally thought it was going to be Looney Tunes, which I think...
that would be a lot cooler.
Yeah, as we know, from other episodes, they've referenced Looney Tunes a handful of times.
Can you imagine if you thought it's Looney Tunes and then you see Tiny Toons, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Wow, and how does it feel to have a song in a cartoon? The funny is, like, we spent all this time touring, weeks and weeks, months and months of touring, and that cartoon has had such an incredible impact, considering that we did absolutely nothing to get it on there. It's the least amount of work we've done for ruining ourselves. The really weird thing about the cartoon, though, is it's got this sort of baby Muppet character. Which sort of, when we heard about it, it was presented to us as Steven Spielberg is starting the Warner Brothers cartoons up again. Would you like to be part of it? And we thought, it'll be like this Bugs Bunny, classic, revival of this thing that was a big part of our childhoods. And instead, it's like this sort of. I haven't actually seen the thing, so I don't know what it's about. But the whole miniature baby thing is kind of it's a little too much baby stuff going on. It's like, I'm cute. No, I'm the baby of the cute. So really like the baby TMBG is really upsetting. But it's not us. It's their thing. It's just our song. It's not even our song, actually. Somebody else wrote the song. But yeah, there's also one of Particle Man. They play it all the time. I guess it costs a lot of money to make those things.
So that is basically what happened. Is they heard that it's like these tiny versions of the characters.
It's like Muppets or Muppet Babies.
It was a very easy job because the animators just said, we want to use these 2 songs off of Flood. You don't have to do anything. Here's some money. And we didn't even really have a clear idea of what the show was all about. It was like, frankly, it sounded a little bit weird. It was like described to us as, well, this is Steven Spielberg taking Warner Brothers characters and making sort of cute little baby versions of them. And we were like, whatever, knock yourselves out.
So I think it's funny. There's a lot going on here. Like in one sense, it's great that it got them all these fans. In another sense, it's definitely not like, I think, John and John's personal aesthetic choice, which is to have these little kid versions of the characters. But on the other sense, in 2019, all the stuff they've done a lot of cartoon music videos. Yeah. So at this point, it's kind of weird to chastise it so much, because how many of their dial a song online things have been these like silly looking cartoon videos, not that they've been for kids, but it's not. Escape Team alone is like, here's a little cartoon video about this cartoon guy.
Yeah, but those are a little bit weirder.
They are weirder, yeah.
They have a weirder starting point. But I was going to say, they could say no to the Tiny Toons thing, right? Like, they don't have to. I just feel like once you're locked into it, you just kind of, they made a choice, right?
Well, this gets back to your point about selling out. When we were offered the Tiny Toons, we agonized over the idea of taking this, because basically it seemed like a big fat check for a very weird thing that we had no control over. Ultimately, we would find out that a whole generation of people would be introduced to our music through Tiny Toons, and it was about as positive an opportunity to get music exposure as a band could have. But while we were driving across America in our white Peeler Ford Econoline van with no, it's one of those vans that has no cushions on the walls. It's just for moving mattresses or something. Yeah. Really like the really crummy one. We just felt like we were smugglers. We just thought, hey man, we're getting a check for $5,000. Let's do it, because we certainly aren't getting paid very much playing at these creepy rock clubs.
And they came to you, right?
Yeah. Up until then, we'd been we'd been very controlling about how our stuff had been used. We'd never really given permission to anybody to use our songs. We had been approached by Crazy Eddie to use a song, and we said no, at a point where we were completely broke. But it just seemed creepy.
It's like one of the reasons, as they said, is they were touring a lot and they were kind of not making tons of money because everything got kind of bigger for them, but that also meant like more money to be spent. And
they say more money, more problems. Yeah.
So the Tiny Toons thing was like a great opportunity for them to make like very easy money and not have to think about it. But what's funny is that they really do have to think about it, because they have to they answered the question a lot about the Tiny Toons thing. And I do think they were bothered. I think people assumed they were involved in the choices of the music videos.
Is that because they look like them?
We'll have to talk about that too. So yeah, there's so much to talk about the Tiny Toons thing. One thing that I think is maybe a little contentious is that they made John Flansburgh a pig. They made him Hampton.
Yeah.
Now, there's multiple clips of them being Flansburgh being bothered by this.
Yeah, you guys were on Tiny Toon Adventures a little while ago.
Yep.
They did a video of that. How did that happen? What?
Well, we just told them it was okay to do it. And then it turned out, I guess they represented us as a pig and something else, and they didn't tell us about that part. Yeah, we really had nothing to do with it.
Tiny Toon Adventures is a pretty hip cartoon show. Steven Spielberg is the executive producer of that thing.
Yeah, we were a little surprised because it was before. They asked us before the show the show was still in development, I guess. So everyone was saying it's this super high quality Warner Brothers like cartoon show.
Right.
But we didn't realize that it would involve baby versions of famous. The baby Muppet thing is kind of frightening.
Yeah, these are baby Porky Pig and baby Bugs Bunny and stuff like that.
So John was Daffy Duck and I was Porky Pig. And
what song did they
John's
use?
feelings were a little hurt, I think.
Yeah, it was took me a little while to get straightened out after the Porky Pig part.
Right.
I always, fancy myself, Elmer Fudd, but...
No, I'd rather be
I don't know.
I'd rather be the pig.
I don't know.
So what song did they use?
He's got the shotgun, the hat.
Into Power.
It's happening.
Okay.
He's got it going on.
And didn't that same show also have the roaches on?
Yeah, that was a different one. That one, they had one that was the whole thing was about the roaches, and this one they were doing videos of different bands.
Oh, they used cockroaches to represent
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Terry and...
I guess we got away easy.
Yeah, really. You, just a pig and a duck.
I got an idea. You're roaches. Real roaches.
What Tiny Toon would you like to be if they had to make you one?
I like Daffy Duck, and Plucky Duck is not too far a downgrade, I think.
Is Daffy Duck your favorite Looney Tune? He's mine.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love how frustrated he is. I relate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Plucky Duck ever gets to those depths of frustration that Daffy does, but I haven't seen the show in a really long time.
Well, Daffy cooled out over the years.
Oh, really?
I think Plucky inherited his mania.
Oh, okay. Sure. I know you're a fan of Go-Go Dodo. You once said that to me.
He's so awesome.
Yeah.
And his episodes, which I watched one recently just to...
Really?
Only the Go-Go Dodo episode, because I was like, is this as good as I remember?
Okay. Was it?
It was pretty fucking weird. I mean, it holds up, I think. It's definitely more creative than the other episodes, I would imagine.
Interesting.
Go-Go Dodo.
So John and John they say on their video compilation that they've had never seen the Tiny Toons videos.
Okay.
Until the release of the compilation when they did commentary for it on the DVD for Direct from Brooklyn. Do you find it strange that they never were curious, even morbidly curious, to watch it? How weird is that? Why not just watch it?
They must have watched it.
You think they're not telling the truth? It's so weird because I've heard them say a few times that they never saw it. They said around the time that it came out in early interviews, they're like, oh yeah, we haven't seen it yet. Mm-hmm. But then when Direct from Brooklyn comes out, it's been out for so many years and they're like, oh, we've actually never seen this.
I guess it's possible that they just kind of forgot after a while.
It's so strange that you're just would never be interested in a thing that especially the thing so many people
they're busy guys
reference.
And I think they were a little afraid. I don't begrudge them for
it's The Ring, the video.
Yeah. Totally. Watch it and then you turn into a Tiny Toon.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the next one, I'm a pig.
That's right, yeah.
I think that might have been the thing that made me not want to get to know these videos any better.
So we should talk briefly about what's in these Tiny Toons videos. So in Particle Man, it's a wrestling match.
It's a wrestling motif.
It's Plucky Duck.
That's his name.
And he's wrestling, I guess what would be...
the various incarnations
yes.
of the characters in the song, the adversaries.
Yeah, so there's I guess
you got your
Plucky
triangle man.
Plucky is Particle Man. I don't think it's the worst way to do visually the song, especially if you're doing a kids cartoon.
I think it makes sense. It's fun.
It makes sense. There is one thing. There's a weird part where he runs through the wrestling rink and there's like a painted background. There's this one guy in the audience that looks really weird because it's like a painted person that's like a noticeably different style than everything else. So I thought it was kind of funny.
Oh, I thought it was funny that even Hampton was against him at the end. He's in the cabin in Alaska, I guess there, or the North Pole.
Yeah, he's escaping. Yeah. I do think it's like kind of accurate because like Linnell is singing the song in a deadpan manner. Like Particle Man, like he's not, kind of like what I was talking about in the Birdhouse one, the kind of weird lack of expressiveness in a lot of the flood vocals that I at least find. I mean, some people I'm sure don't agree with me. They have Hampton with the deadpan expression pretty, I feel like it's pretty appropriate.
Yeah. But then at the end, he looks evil.
Yeah, that's strange.
The announcer has something to do with this fight, apparently, and wants to kill him also.
Wow.
It's weird.
So Person Man is identified by this wrestler that is you might know from a cartoon called Bunny Hugged from 1951. It's an old wrestling Looney Tunes cartoon with Bugs Bunny fighting this guy, and I think he makes a fool of him for a few minutes, and then we all laugh.
It's funny, before you even showed me the other one, I could recognize that guy as being like an archetype of the old Looney Tunes cartoons as an antagonist.
Yeah, it's weird that he's Person Man though, because Person Man should have been a pathetic. Like Plucky is really Person Man in the it visually gets confusing because Person Man hits Plucky with a frying pan, but it's like Person Man is supposed to be the one who's put upon, not the one who's dishing out the punishment. Sherri Stoner, Tiny Toons writer, explain that.
Well, now we're just in the weeds. So,
and then let's just very quickly talk about the Istanbul one. The Istanbul video reminds me of I used to watch this a lot when I was little. Did you see this as a kid? It's like it's called like Bugs Bunny's third movie, 1001 Rabbit Tales, and it's kind of like a similar aesthetic. He's in like a kind of like a Middle Eastern country.
I never watched the movies, man, because I'm not a poser.
I used to watch the Ghostbuster parody one obsessively when I was a kid. You remember that, Quackbusters?
No.
That's like if you want to know what clicks the nostalgia switch in me, it's for some Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. I find it funny in the video compilation when John and John watch this that they're kind of like dead silent for most of it, except being vaguely interested in the plot happening.
I think it's weird that there's a statue of Plucky Duck out there. He has to steal a statue of himself?
That is
odd. It was him, right?
I think the main point of interest is that there's a shot of Plucky and Hampton meant to resemble John Linnell and John Flansburgh.
And they got Flansburgh playing the violin. That's totally wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. But the little tuft of hair, I think, works.
Sure.
And Plucky, I have to say, the John Linnell thing, he's wearing a turtleneck and doing a wacky dance, as in like let's say the Anna Ing video or something. I think that's pretty accurate. And he's got the Linnell flop on the hairdo.
The old Linnell flop.
I thought that was a cool touch. That to me felt like someone involved, or maybe one or more than one people involved were actually, they might, interested in They Might Be Giants and have seen their other videos, even if they did them
dirty.
It did them dirty by making Hampton, by making Flansburgh a pig.
I feel bad that Plucky held out for Elmira.
Yeah.
That was his reward.
What a twist.
I found Elmira to be just insufferable, even as a kid.
Do you think it's weird that
just too much?
He's shown the photo of her and is sexually attracted to the photo at the start of the Assemble video, and it's revealed that it's actually a small child?
No, I think that's fine.
I guess we could talk about the popularity of Particle Man stemming from the Tiny Toons thing, which is like, I guess like the cartoons you watched as a child really burn deep into your soul,
genitals.
Who you are, that nostalgia feeling. I was playing Mario Odyssey and they had a reference to...
Tell me more.
I was playing Mario Odyssey and you run into the football guys from Mario World. And that feeling... You know what I'm talking about?
Bon.
That feeling, and they made the same sound effect too.
Yeah.
And that feeling washed over me of like, oh my God, that childhood feeling. And
Can never get it back.
So I think for a certain generation, I guess our generation, the best generation.
Definitely.
Those Tiny Toons cartoons were like, I used to watch these all the time. They reran all the time. So Particle Man and Istanbul, of course, they kind of are aligned with that and burned in your brain in that same way. I mean, in a way, like Particle Man might be the They Might Be Giants song I've heard more than any others because of I used to watch reruns of the Tiny Toons and stuff. I will say it is funny in the episode when they play Particle Man and Buster Bunny is like, who are these guys? Do you remember that?
No, funny enough, I haven't seen the Tiny Toon stuff in 20 years or whatever.
Really?
I mean, their episodes.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch for this podcast.
But I do like the I guess Sherri Stoner, who wrote it, is kind of a little defensive about why would we have 2 in a row, and the character is also like, why are we doing this?
That's funny.
Yeah,
it's a good show.
Dave is really on the pro Tiny Toons. I mean, I didn't come. I didn't come here to slam Tiny Toons. I'm just trying to give a little all sides of the story, which is that John and John had some misgivings about the context of the show. Which
they should have read their contract more closely.
Which is that they were not the actual Looney Tunes.
But didn't they realize it was called Tiny Toons, not Looney Tunes?
I think it wasn't named yet. I think this was like pretty early on based on that interview.
Yeah, there's a lot of missing pieces of this puzzle.
Yeah, but I also think that the correlation of They Might Be Giants equals children's cartoon thing, I do think that's a problem. And it is hard when you're a fan, especially when, I was like a fan when I was like 14, 15, and I'm trying to feel like a cool music guy.
It seems like baby music.
And if people think it's baby music, and Tiny Toons does not help that. And it is called Tiny Toons. Like, you know, I know you're defending that they weren't babies, but
I'd say they were around middle school.
Yeah, it should have been called Middle School Tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through puberty tunes.
So because of this, I'm pretty sure solely because Particle Man wasn't a single. I mean, we could talk about that too. Like it maybe should have been, but at the same time, it's like even for They Might Be Giants, Particle Man is not like a rock. So like I don't think you could sneak that onto the air unless it's a certain kind of radio show. I hesitate to say like a Dr. Demento type show where you're playing kind of silly songs.
It is infectious though. People
latch onto it very quickly, I think, and at all ages. When they play it on almost every single show ever, and the crowd like goes crazy when they play it. But I mean, me and you don't go crazy because we're tired of the song. But I will say they do keep it interesting live. They like Linnell sneaks in other pop songs in the middle, which I don't know if that's some sort of a commentary on either like I'm bored playing Particle Man and I want to make it more interesting for myself, which is totally fair, or maybe he's commenting about like songs that have kind of catchy like one-hit wonders that get in your head, like the way Particle Man might. I don't know.
Probably the former. I think he's just bored.
I saw the sign and heard the I saw the sign and opened up my eyes. I am happy got you. I love you, cool. I saw the sign and opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Particle Man, in the fight, Particle wins, Particle Man.
Particle Man is a song, like if I'm telling someone
Particle Man
about They Might Be Giants, they'll just go like, and they don't know who it is, I'll be like, oh, Particle Man, and they'll go, oh yeah, Particle Man. Like I feel like people know it without even knowing why they know it. It's one of those songs, like a nursery rhyme or something.
Quick aside, speaking of my new drummer, because we told him we had the podcast, and I was like, oh, do you know them? And he was like, oh yeah, Malcolm in the Middle.
You think that's the new one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, God.
So
I think Particle Man is a better song than Boss of Me, but I guess we'll get into Boss of Me in the future.
Though he is my age, but maybe he wasn't watching cartoons or wasn't on his radar, but like sitcoms, I don't know.
But see, so here's the thing, if you like YouTube Particle Man, like so many people have done stuff about it. Like they've done little student films trying to do music videos for it. They've done like animations to it. Like there's something, like the sing-songy man versus man quality to it. Like it lends itself to a lot of like plays off of it, right? Like playing on it.
They have to keep in mind that they won a Grammy for the Malcolm in the Middle one too. So you're going to just hear about that. You're going to hear about people that won awards. Like I hear about movies that I wouldn't have because they won an Oscar or whatever.
Yeah. So I saw the Weird Al tour where he did like all of his like rarities, with like a stripped down band where they sat on stools and stuff. And every night he did a cover of a different song.
Okay.
And from different bands, he did like Talking Heads, and he did a lot of bands I like and a lot of random stuff, like Tom Petty, or just random stuff, not funny versions, just straight ahead versions. And one night he did Particle Man.
Particle Man, doing the things a particle can. What's he like? It's not important. Particle Man, is he a dot or
which
is he a
I really had like not a great feeling about because the thing is, Weird Al describes himself as a huge They Might Be Giants fan, as we know and we've discussed. And I was like, oh, he's going to do their one huge popular song.
Right.
I thought it'd be cool if he did something more random because it was his self-indulgent tour. If there's one song to cover that I could, kind of make sense for Weird Al to sing, it's that. Even though, again, Particle Man, it's so hard to defend because it sounds so silly and like a childlike song. But like we talked about with the lyrics are complex and darkly humorous. I feel like Particle Man it's almost as dense as like we talked about their songs with other dense references like Puppet Head or like
Purple
Toupee. Yeah, that's a good one. So it's like Particle Man fits right along with that, especially with all the backstory behind how, writing of it. But at the same time, it comes across as something that's it sounds kind of cute. It sounds kind of funny.
Sounds cute like you.
Thank you. There's a lot of, but the song has a lot of like violence and despair in it, which I feel like they see very clearly, but other people maybe.
But that's kind of why it's a good fit for Tiny Toons. I mean, maybe a better fit for Looney Tunes, but maybe they thought the tradition of cartoon violence would have continued more into Tiny Toons.
So the label Quirky is something I wanted to talk about with you too.
Tell me more.
Well, so it's like I think, as you know, They Might Be Giants are often called quirky, even by their biggest fans. I see it all the time online. Quirky this, quirky that. And what's
quirky with a baseball bat.
And what's funny is, how much they hate the term.
The two Johns have been making quirky music for the past quarter century now, but Flansburgh and Linnell don't care much for that quirky label.
There's this thing about the internet where, and I'm sure anyone who is in a kind of public life becomes aware of this, it becomes this very insidious echo chamber. And I think in the very first line of a Wikipedia entry about They Might Be Giants, the word quirky was introduced. For years and years, I would very methodically remove any press clipping that had the word quirky in it. And it was a very good way to kind of guide the lazier of the writers in the world away from that term. But now with the internet, it's just a bonanza for lazy writing because they can just literally cut and paste the word quirky into the first line of their They Might Be Giants review. I would like to declare a little cultural boycott of the term. I do feel like it has no poetry to it. I can't imagine why anybody would be interested in something. It seems just inauthentic at the core of it. Like it seems like a pose rather than an idea, and that personally does kind of offend me.
And sometimes they accept the term. Like I just watched an interview where a girl just to their face said like, so you've been doing this nerd rock for a while. And Linnell's total straight face. He doesn't crack, but they've said that they hate that term nerd rock.
Well, who wants to be called a nerd?
Well, see, because in in the 20 teens, being a nerd is cool because everything.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm saying that,
hate to break it to you guys.
So I guess the thing is, the band feels to me like they're kind of constantly trying to defend their choices, which are maybe like some anti-rock choices. Like Particle Man is not a rock song, though live, like we said, it is. They can make it rock.
I guess that's kind of my point, though, is like they have this confidence about like this is who we are,
and that's not nerdy. It's not nerdy to be confident.
Yeah.
So I guess my fear about the Tiny Toons and the Particle Man thing being their most popular song, as opposed to, let's say, a more I don't know. I'm just like saying this off the top of my head, like a song from John Henry. That's just a rock song.
Yeah.
That's just like super awesome and fun and smart. Particle Man is like this oompa, funny nursery playgrounds type song, and that's what everyone associates They Might Be Giants with. Then the people who maybe don't know their other songs will assume, oh, They Might Be Giants are this silly, silly band that has these silly songs, and that could be. And let's say the second song they know is Istanbul. That's not really doing them favors in that sense. So what I'm trying to say is this complicated idea, which is it's not to say Particle Man is bad or that they are bad for.
But maybe it's a misrepresentation.
It's like a one-hit wonder thing where like, well, the song is good, but they have other songs that are.
Well, they say there's no such thing as bad press. So
no, that's true. But one thing they do hate in the press is when they're called quirky, and I think Particle Man certainly adds to that because it's like, how else do you describe that song?
And once it's on the web, it's there forever.
Exactly.
It's like plastic bags, they'll never die.
They are the plastic bags of the internet. Exactly, yeah.
And for us, Quirky is the plastic garbage bag in the leafless tree by the dump that we cannot pull down.
Well, they probably get that idea, about the Quirky from the polka rhythms, the cartoon music.
Hey, I'm not even saying it isn't true. I just find it. I'm just saying it's boring. It's just like, part of it is like, of course, we're quirky, I guess, I don't know. But,
well, it's also a way of saying it's also a way of saying that you're not immediately familiar with something. So you're just trying to say that it's strange, and that's like a way of saying that you don't want to get familiar with it.
Right.
Or that
Yeah. And also, to be perfectly honest, like until they start saying that, like a lot of other rock music is just like, oh, well, they're part of that whole boring rock thing.
Same.
Right. I don't know. And we're just trying to do interesting work that like captures people's imaginations. And it's, we're pretty dedicated to it and we're pretty serious about it. And I don't know, I just feel like our intentions are kind of annihilated by the term.
Particle Man, doing the things a particle can. What's he like? It's not important. Particle Man, is he a dot or is he a speck? When he's underwater, does he get wet? Or does the water get him instead? Nobody knows Particle Man. Triangle Man, Triangle Man, Triangle Man hates Particle Man. They have a fight, Triangle wins. Triangle Man. Universe Man, size of the entire universe, man. There's blind to smaller man, universe man. He's got a watch with a minute hand, millennium hand, and an eon hand. And when they meet, it's a happy land. Powerful man, universe man. Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can. Person man, is he depressed or is he a mess? Does he feel totally worthless? Who came up with person man, degraded man, person man? Triangle Man, Triangle Man, Triangle Man hates person man. They have a fight, Triangle wins, Triangle Man.